guys, welcome back to episode 93. Okay guys, we're back again. Our next guest, we had a lot of fun with the whole podmatch.com thing because, it really does sound like a dating app for podcasters. It's kind of silly, the name, but it works. Because the irony of it is a lot of the people that you meet on there, you don't really match with. You just find them and say hello. So there's that. But this person I actually did match with. And, so she and I had a conversation the other day, and it was a really intimate conversation. Really nice to just talk to somebody who's been through a lot, and she's a little out there. She has a very, she's very kind of vulgar how she puts it, but that's kind of how I am, and it may rub people the wrong way, but so be it. But it's just honesty, and it just shows you what people can overcome and so on. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little about yourself?
All right. Well, I'm Lindsay. I currently live in a little town in Nebraska called Kearney. But I moved here from Colorado Springs about a year and a half ago with a family, hoping that I could get away from like bad stuff in Colorado Springs. Thought moving's a solution, but it's not.
It follows you everywhere.
Yes, I'm a runner. I've always started to notice that I just always think if I can run away from everything or move from a house that has bad memories like that, the problems will be fixed. But that is not the case. The fun part is that you have to face yourself.
Right.
And I hate this word because I just have heard it so much, but my journey of life, there's no other word.
It sounds pretty, but it's not as pretty as the word sounds.
There's just no other word except for journey. So, or experience, I guess. So, age so I don't have to keep doing the math for people and stuff. I'll be 40 in a couple weeks. So my journey of life started, I have two great parents. Like you, we were talking, I have a mother who's a nurse and a dad who's a senior software engineer. So I come from a really good family. But at 6, and this was, I believe, 1987. I know the guy got convicted in 89, but my brother and some other boys were, molested by a neighbor. The kid we played with, it was his uncle, right? And so, I actually, got to go through the fun part of watching somebody get convicted as a child and having detectives come pull me out of kindergarten, and asking very vulgar questions. Till this day, I can't say explicit sexual terms, right, just because of what I think it kind of did to my brain. So I'm still like a child when people in my life have said vulgar comments to me or whatever. I just kind of clam up. But
like we were talking about the other day, like you really don't know how much something messes you up until you get old enough to kind of realize what all that stuff means, and then you're like, oh shit, I'm pretty messed up.
Yes. Now finding out more about what happens through people who've had all these trauma, it literally does something to the brain. They've done like scans on the brain, and if you've had like tons of trauma, it's literally even worse than drugs itself, I guess. So it takes a lot longer to heal if people even do end up healing from it. So it's pretty interesting. I wish I would have got this information a long time ago, but it's all right. So being the ages of like between 0 and 7, they say if you had any sort of trauma, your cognitive part of your brain, like I should have been able to experience things, so it kind of stopped my brain process from whatever I was supposed to naturally experience through like my brain expanding or whatever. So, and I guess children that are 7 and above that go through some hard times have an easier time, healing, I guess.
Right.
So
when he got in trouble, did you guys, you and your brother and all the other kids, like, did they speak up, or was it he just?
Yeah. No. So what happened is one kid started giving, I guess his dad knew something was going on. He finally kind of said, "Hey, this is going on. This, that he was being abused or whatever." And the next thing you know, detectives get involved and stuff like that. I was the only female. I feel like he had it out for little boys. Unfortunately, like what happens with this is not, they call it grooming. So all these other little boys ended up molesting me, and it's just a sick, it's not the children's fault, it's just this poison that somebody did, and you do it to kids and they don't know what they're experiencing. Because now we tell children, like, I don't know about, well, I guess everybody else, but I have kids of my own, and my God, I was on PTSD mode thinking everybody is going to snatch up my kid, abuse them, and everybody's a predator. And so I really emphasized to them when they got a little bit more older that if this ever happens, please let me know. There's nothing wrong with, but in the 80s, and I think even before the 80s, it's like a hush-hush thing, So when you're a child that's molested and you don't even know what those organs are for, somebody's doing something bad to you. Yeah. And it is a total messed up process in the brain. And not only that, I remember the guy telling me that if I told anybody he'd kill my parents. This guy came to our school and said he was like our uncle there to pick us up. He was going to kidnap us. So, I mean, it was pretty rough. And my mother, who's a natural caretaker by trade, she's a nurse, right? My brother gave a lot of symptoms of like germophobia, started washing his hands a lot and stuff like that. So, I saw a lot of chaos going on the family, and I saw them emphasizing on my brother. So I kind of shut down my whole self, I guess, and always said, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Because I did not want to tell people, hey, Dad, when you give me a hug, it makes me cringe. I don't like to be touched. That's what happened to me with my trauma. I did not want to be touched. And I'm still very awkward about that kind of stuff. But so, we had to go to the courtroom. I remember the molester turning around, saying he's sorry that he was molested as a child. That is hard to process as a child, because in your head, that was somebody that was supposedly a distorted friend, like he was an adult. You're supposed to trust them. And now I must be a bad person. This is where guilt and shame just comes and just messes everything up for you. I must be a bad person because this guy's going to jail, and it must be something I did. And so anyways, you kind of go on to life. He gets,
even when he tells you that, like, it happened to him, I'm sure, again, maybe now, later in life, like, you hear that, and it's how the cycle just, like, continues, and how we don't do enough research, and how we don't, like, try to get these people before they do the ultimate thing. Because when you break it down, like, there's kids that are being molested by their parents right now, and when they grow up, what do you anticipate them on being? Probably the exact same thing. And it's unfortunate, because there's people that really just went through horrible atrocities in their house, and then all they know is to just kind of pass it on, do the same thing. And
well, and now they're finding with studies that this, I don't know if the word disease, once they have this problem or fetish with children or people that are sexual predators, it's not going away. They're not curing it. But So kind of fast forward into life, my brother became really was, he was a really good, he's super smart and stuff, but all of a sudden started acting out, got into drugs, started changing the way he dressed, and became the primary focus of the family, because of his acting out. And so there's me in the background, right, who's just like, okay, I'll listen, I'll be good, I'll be quiet, I'll do what you want. I don't want any more chaos going on, Right. And so I stuffed all my emotions down. And, I remember even trying to be like my brother. Okay, I'll start dressing all crazy and stuff. And I definitely didn't get the same attention. It was like worse for me, but I'll never forget it. Like, I want to say, because we lived in California, because we moved, this happened in Colorado Springs, but we moved to California, and I remember, I want to say I was 10 or 11, right? I remember I'd watched like some movie where a lady had cut her wrist, and for some reason dawned on me that I should do that. And so I took like a razor blade, like a shaving razor blade, and cut myself. And was like, I didn't even know what I was doing, but I guess I kind of did, There was something so shoved down inside me, like just so much emotions, and I didn't know how to get them out. And my mother had put us, and I've been in therapy for, my God, I might as well be a therapist, I swear to God. But my generation, like, in the 90s, they were pill pushing. Oh, you had childhood trauma. You had this. Take a Prozac, take a Paxil, take an Effexor. Right. It'll go away. It'll go away. That's what I remember as being young. Like, okay, take these pills. So guess what I did? I tried to overdose on them at 12. Yeah. And I remember my mom giving me Icapac syrup, which will make you vomit stuff back up, and then, my family just brushed it under the rug, I guess. Cause I don't know, nobody's prepped for that in the parenting manual that they were never given from the start, right. What to do if this happens, what to do if that happens. Well, and
we just didn't have a lot of information on what mental health and PTSD and all that. Like I said, PTSD is always something that's always been equated to, people coming back from the war. And it's way more than that. And then, like nowadays we have all the information. It's just we don't address it enough. We don't put it out there.
Well, back then it wasn't even PTSD. It was manic depressive. They don't even use that term anymore. It's a bipolar, and so, I'm glad to have the label of PTSD now, especially for the, a lot of those Vietnam veterans and stuff, I'm a veteran too. But, I get back to like, being in, I think, like sixth grade, third, fifth, sixth grade, third, fourth, I missed my numbers, or third to sixth grade, I'm, now becoming an adolescent, and I felt so out of place. Like, I never felt like I belonged here, I guess. And I don't know if that's from... maybe I'm not from here, who knows, but like I always contemplated looking out in the stars, like, so that's my home out there. So it's contemplating the universe, always believing that animals talk, like everything's alive, I don't know that spirituality or psychological stuff, but I never had a lot of friends, probably due to me not having great trust with people, but never found like my group. When you get into that like kind of middle school, high school era, you're trying to find a belonging, right? And I remember there was this group of, the cheerleaders and all that. They were so into nothing. Like, it was just like clothes and what did your dad do and stuff like that. And that was not my interest. And so I fit in with I was a skater chick. Okay. My kid's also an emo, but skater, little punk rocker chick, because those personalities were kind of, in a sense, I'll put it the nice way. They were the ones who'd been through issues, who'd been damaged or whatever, and they understood pain. Right. And so that's where I felt like my belonging was. So I got into,
they were kind of like the outcast, and
yes,
it wasn't,
and that's,
they weren't
I guess,
nerds. They were just like, they were this group of people that were kind of a little dark and they thought different. The culture's kind of shifted, and they now. It's not like
they're super brilliant. Like, I mean, I'm very intelligent, and that group of people was highly intelligent, just dressed different. Really, that's all there was to it, and thought about things that I think are more important, in my opinion. And I still am into sporting all black outfits.
There's a documentary about like these, it's called like something 13. It's with these 3 kids that like dressed like that, and they had like trench coats and everything, and then they got arrested for a murder that they did a 3-part documentary. I believe it was HBO, and the first documentary they get arrested. The second one they're trying to like put it on someone else, and then the third one they finally get out. But it was they pretty much judged them based off of how they looked, because they wore like black makeup and they wore the trench coats, and they were just outcasts. They were different. They didn't really hang out with anyone else, and
because we always got to single out some group, right? Because we got to, for some reason, just got to take the focus off of who we are and point it to somebody that doesn't look right. I love it. Jeez, no, I don't.
Right.
Freaking blah.
Yeah.
So my brother was, I think at 12, like getting into the drug scene. He's the first person I smoked pot with. Now, I am one of those people who said, I will never do that. I will never do that. I swear to God, I'll never do that. And guess what? I hit all my marks. I did them all. So at 15, I remember there was a guy had a big old lump of cocaine. And that was one thing I said I'll never do, because I remembered being a kid and having like the DARE officers come with their drug kit and like saying all the damage drugs do and all this. And, so, hey, what the heck, I was, didn't like the way I felt inside. And I remember doing a line of coke, and honestly, I didn't feel nothing. It's like a drug where you don't really know what you're supposed to feel. Like, at least with pot and other drugs, you kind of have this expectation of what you're supposed to feel, but like cocaine didn't do that. So would I do again? Oh, I'll do another one. And then the next day I'll do another one, and then I felt this euphoria, and in my brain back then, that is the heaven, the false heaven, let me put it that way. But to a 15-year-old, that took all my pain away. I felt like every pain inside me was gone, and that I was like this whole new human being. And I was like, F your pills you push down my throat. This one works, and I don't know why you call it illegal. Honestly, that was my opinion back then. And, God, I had saved up. I remember at that time I was 15, and I worked, and I saved up like $2,000. My dad was all proud of me. And in a month, that money was gone. And addiction set in really fast to me. Because I remember the other people, I was like, how come nobody else is looking on the carpet for this stuff, So if anybody out there says like they were a cokehead, but they never looked for stuff on the carpet, I don't believe you. I'm sorry. If you ever accidentally touch popcorn ceiling, yeah. Okay, because that stuff is powerful. Stuff is very powerful. And I chased that memory, really, of like the first high for 20 plus years off and on, because it became a coping mechanism to me,
right. Well, one of the things that you said was, earlier, just about, when you're going through that kind of trauma, and if people is kind of what put you in that trauma, which in most cases it is, you tend to try to search for things that are unhuman. Like in my case, I did, it was like stuffed animals or actual real animals, or just music, or, you start, like you said, you're looking out to the stars. Like you start trying to find all these alternate realities that are not like the one that you're in, because the one you're in is shitty. And you want, that's why I think, for me, I always got lost in shows and movies, because I was just like, man, I want this world to be real. And
I got lost. I got lost in music, and definitely like, especially those cool sci-fi movies, where they were somewhere else. and that can probably play in part of my experience when we go down the path here. But,
well, some of those drugs will take you to an altered dimension too. So,
Yes, they will. And I mean, so I was always searching, we all have this, everybody will talk about this missing piece inside of them. So they fill it with what? Relationships. So they think they need to find the one in order to complete themselves. They fill it with drugs or sex or whatever it is for them, Right. I find that I think the missing piece is you that you need to fill. That's my point of view now on life. But like my first experience with a relationship, right? So I remember I was in middle school and got my first, little, what do you call it? Like love sick over some guy.
Mm-hmm.
And, this guy ended up dying. He fell off a cliff. He drank, he fell off a cliff and died. I was like, okay, so that was my first one. The second one where I had like a relationship with for like 9 months in middle school, like my God, of course, I thought I was going to marry him and this was going to go into the future. I mean, I remember he had went to a rehab and told me that he wanted to break up because he found somebody else. And she got pregnant. We were in middle school. That was my first breakup. And I'm like, Jesus, who else gets this much punishment in life? Like, I just wanted love from somebody, So then you add on the feelings of rejection and that definitely, remember we were talking about how your mind will sit there and just talk crap like you're not worth love. And here's all the reasons why.
Yeah, sometimes it stays quiet, and then when it comes back, it comes back in the moments when you do not need that voice, and it has proof to back up what it wants to say.
So from from birth now to age 15, I have already seen I must be damaged goods. Other people are better than me. I'm always to the sidelines because my parents thought I was like the winning child. So they kind of didn't pay a lot of attention to me because they thought I was just doing what I need to do, And so there's all these false beliefs already festering up in my brain. I'm not good enough. I'm not worth enough. I'm not this enough. Nobody loves me. I'm not pretty enough. Definitely living in California, I felt self-esteem. I wasn't skinny enough because back then your ribs needed to show unless to be pretty, and that still is damaging to me. But, so then we go on to 18, and I got my first business job and was really proud, also back up, like in the cocaine world, I remember seeing my friends' parents, they were executives doing coke and stuff. And I'm like, this is a life I want to live. These people have money and they do drugs, it was enticing to me. Like, that's what I want to be when I grow up. Successful and loaded with drugs and money and dope.
Well, cocaine is considered more of like a rich person drug because it's more expensive to attain.
Yeah, but then, you just have to work for it to, lose everything. It just comes to nothing in the end. But, so 18, I worked, it was Blockbuster. They don't even have Blockbuster anymore, but down in Texas.
Left. There's one in the world.
What?
I believe it's in Michigan because that's the original one. And last time I checked, which was like a year ago, it's still there.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Well, so I was working at a temp company and I was just super excited because I was out of the world of retail, and so they had a little Christmas party where I actually got to dress up and just felt so awesome. Like, oh my God, I'm a part of something, like I'm a big person. And, went with a coworker of mine and then of course, was drinking, and then two people, said they had cocaine and I went with them to only get sexually assaulted. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, remember talking to my mom and telling her what happened and she took me to the ER, report all this and do all this. Well, this is the generation where they told you, hey, if you did drugs, then it was your fault. That's what they said. That's what the police said to me. I was 18. I'll never forget the my God, I mean, pretty much that I was all I heard, was my fault, slut. You asked for it, kind of words like that. And I remember taking a straight blade to my wrist, and this is where I still have scars there. I hit him pretty good. It just, so, there's another trauma to pack onto the other trauma to the other trauma. And, like I told you when we had talked, my parents, I was a perfectionist. I had to be the perfect child because my brother was the opposite. So I had so much pressure to be the one that went to college and succeed. And I did go to college. I have a bachelor's degree in human resources management. It's not what my dreams were, but it's what my parents wanted. And I thought after that came a white picket fence and a family and, like we said, a dog and greatness. And hey, your life is built because you got a college degree now.
Right.
Well, no. God, I'm proud that I have a degree, but really that job statistics did not pay what it said it was supposed to. The husband, this is my second husband, was, in my opinion, a decent person. But you'll find with people with trauma, we don't pick the greatest people. It's like we're trying to find the predator all over again.
Right. You see, like women who have been molested, or especially they have daddy issues, they tend to try to go after older men who are usually really not good for them, and they try to find that image in their father that they never got.
Well, my first husband, I was at University of Northern Texas, and it was my neighbor. All of a sudden, my neighbor comes out, and then I found out I was sober. Actually, this time, I did a little drinking, just part of the college lifestyle. But guess what? Found out, oh my God, here comes my demons again. He's a cocaine dealer. Yeah, and so I thought it was love.
Jeez.
You thought it, yeah. Thought it was love. I honestly did. I thought I loved him. I got pregnant. He was Italian, so we kind of had this shotgun marriage, because when you start using drugs, you'll stop taking your pills. You just don't care about any sort of medications you take or anything. And, that marriage didn't last too long. We do have a beautiful daughter out of it, so I can't ever wish that I never met anybody, even though I've scanned through my brain thousands of times, all these scenarios. But the second husband I met, I thought was better than the first one, right? Because he had a job. He had a legit job. He was in the military, and he had his own car. And, so I'm doing better than the last one, And once again, I guess it's impulsivity, just being impulsive. I couldn't tell you, that we knew each other for years and then got married. It was not like that. It was like, okay, you went on deployment, and when you come back, we're getting married. And then by the time you got back from deployment, I was knocked up, and, it's just sick the way my brain was so distorted. My what I thought was okay and normal, or, it's sad. It really hurts me that I had experienced that kind of stuff. But
did you feel like in between these relationships, or at some point in your life, did you feel maybe like, oh, I'm better, I've recovered from all this? Did you ever fool yourself into that?
I did, and it was usually I thought in a relationship, I thought that's what was going to save me. I thought I was always somebody's savior, so I thought a savior was going to come my way. And really, when I met my second husband, I wasn't using. I wasn't. Drinking is not my drug of choice, but I thought a family, I think maybe that's what it is. A family, and having what my parents have had, my grandparents have, that's what'll save me. Because I do believe in family.
Right. But
I thought if I can get that completeness, that is a family, right? two individuals and some children, that somehow that'll break the pain away.
Yeah, because it's super unfair because we've been through so much trauma, and we essentially have to reboot and we have to work on ourselves, even though most of what happened to us isn't our fault and people did it to us. No. But we have to work on ourselves, and so we're constantly rebooting and working, just trying to rework and rewire everything. And you're just like, why am I doing this? Like, why do I need it? I didn't cause this. I didn't unplug everything.
But you start feeling like you did for some reason when life keeps going, and it's so the guilt and the shame and just all of the negativity. Like I lived for other people. That was, and I think I hear that in your story a lot. I mean, just from the talking to you, like I lived, if that other person was pissed off, then I was pissed off. If they were happy, I was happy. My life was in other people. And by making other people happy, that made me happy. But in reality, it didn't, because I was just saying I'm not good enough to focus on my problems and I'm just shit. So I'm going to take care of everybody else. And it was taking the focus off myself. And somebody said a good phrase to me: how can you help people when you're bleeding profusely? And I was like, that's a good point. I don't know, but I've been trying for a long time. Right. Because I'd be depleted. I'd be depleted after, shit hit the fan again from a relationship or whatever. I'd be sitting there wanting to take my life as usual, empty, alone, wondering what the hell, what did I do to deserve this? I was raised Catholic, so the unconditionally loving God with all the conditions, I already assumed hated me and deemed me not worthy of heaven,
Right. Well, you're essentially skipping a lot of steps. Instead of really recovering and trying to work on yourself, you're just jumping into the next situation, and then when you fall, it's a much bigger fall, because now it's it's part 8 or 9 or whatever this is, another disaster, and you've never recovered from the first 7. And so you
feel like you have.
Right, because again, you're trying to get lost in these other situations. You're hoping people are going to save you. Like one
Very
of my goals,
point.
I want to find a good woman in my life, but every time I go to find them, I find these just disasters of people. And it's like, right. and that's when you start taking on yourself. Like, I guess I am the asshole. I'm the bad person, but it's just, right. I haven't worked on myself, and I keep giving people chances because I'm actually kind-hearted, and I give people chances that don't deserve it. Because, I want, I feel like I don't want to judge people. I don't want to be shallow. I want to give people opportunities, but a lot of people don't deserve it. And then when I give them the opportunity and they obviously fail, and then then instead of just going like, oh, TJ, you just clearly just took a step back and screwed up by giving this person a chance. No, I go, see, this is why I'm going to be alone forever. And you just, it spirals down.
I know. And that's the mindset I get into now. I mean, so after my second marriage ended in shambles, so I used to work for Boeing, and that's my dog. So I used to work for Boeing, and that was the biggest accomplishment ever to my parents. My dad was so proud of me. Well, in my nice marriage, my second marriage, we got into a fight, and because we got into a fight, my husband at the time took our infant kid and started going to New York, where he was from, and technically it's like kidnapping, right? In his head, it was logical or whatever. But so I went on a cocaine bender. I went back to the only coping mechanism. Like I said, it always resurfaced because that's the only coping mechanism that I knew from an early age is when times get tough, it used to work, but it's weird is that it doesn't work.
Right. With your drug problem, did you ever address it in a way? Like, did you quit it cold turkey and just keep going back, or did you go to rehab? Sorry, I skipped out on that. No,
during my adolescent time, my mother had put me, I'd been in the psych hospitals, and those were kind of quote unquote a detox or a rehab for teenagers, I actually even went to a high school at the end of high school. Now I didn't even know this exists for teens that were addicts. So we got UA'd, and it's kind of like homeschool, but in a structured setting. Right. And this was at 17, 18, right?
So they're still teaching you the basic courses and all that, but
you're getting more accountable for your drug addiction, and they're, going on more classes and stuff about addiction and stuff like that. That's where I remember meeting like one of my second relationships, because he was a heroin addict and I was a cokehead. So in my sick brain, that could work. And we stayed sober for 9 months. Wow. We did. But, this is distorted thinking. This is just, it just, once again, it's like we always try to think we'll be complete with somebody else, and I can't really tell you if that's a true statement or not. I mean, because I haven't found that stable love that I have given people, in my opinion, because I've done things bad in relationships that I'll never do again, but I feel like I give too much, and then people take advantage of me.
Yeah. And you're a lot like me. I've always said that I'm a lonely loner, where I don't want to be alone, but the damage that has been caused by other people, it makes me want to avoid any kind of contact, and so I stay to myself. But then that's when I'm alone is when the thoughts kick in, and like when I'm at work and all that, and I'm doing stuff like this, I'm fine. But when I'm just sitting here and I have really nothing to do but watch a show or whatever, the thoughts kick in, and I don't want to be alone, and then it's like, okay, let me go search for people, and let's go on dates that I probably shouldn't be on because these people are horrible.
You already think of their intentions are bad if you're like me.
Yeah, and they may not be, but you're so used to one thing. But you can't go on autopilot. You can't go blind into something and just go, well, let's do this, because that's how you end up in the situations that you either ended up in, or I end up in, or some other people. It's, Well, I find it crazy. Maybe you'll relate to me. Is that I look at my patterns now, because I'm really in this focus of internalizing everything I've been through. I'm on this healing mission right now. And it's so crazy. The partners that I picked, they were the exact opposite of what I morally stood for. No matter what trauma I had been in, right? I value love. I value family. I value these things, and and honesty. And I picked partners that lied, that stole, that were the exact opposite in a sense of me, but they put on a pretty good show, at the beginning, or at least I was blinded by all of that. Because when I look back, all those red flags, it's like a bad horror movie. Everything said, caution, don't go, do not go, like your death, destruction. And I'm like, yeah, screw those signs. This one, I can deal. I can fix them. I can. Right. That's when that's like when the movie kicks in, and then there's a montage of all the bad things that came across you, and it was like, oh, I just skipped all that. it was right there the whole time.
It's so crazy how you're blinded when it comes. Love is a drug. Love, or that lust, maybe I should say, is a drug in itself, where you literally withdraw from it. Mm-hmm. When you're with someone, even if you can't stand them at the end, it still is suffering after they leave, and you lose weight, and you go into depression and loneliness. I mean, it's withdrawal from a human being. I mean, it's just strong. I mean, this is what the motive to kill and to do bad things, that happens as a result of love, but also great things happen as a result of love. So, so it's a balance kind of a
there.
High
too, because you chase it. And even if you had it for 5 minutes in your relationship, where it's like, maybe the birth of your daughter, and you guys looked at each other and it was like, oh, and that moment, it was like, oh, I want that again. And even though it wasn't really much of a real love, it's just whatever. You have bits and pieces where you like each other, and whatever. And then so you want that again, even though it was for 5 minutes or whatever, a month. Yeah, you're chasing that one thing, and you'll do anything to get it. Kind of like cocaine and all the other things that you've chased. Yeah, love can be that way.
Well, with my second marriage, like I was really like, I'm going to give 200% for this one. Like, no doubt about it, like going full fledged, nothing's going to break this marriage. I'm going to do it perfect. And I was in my late 20s at this time. And I remember this is where I learned the whole term fighting fire with fire, already thinking, I remember I'm pretty sure he was talking to other girls. This is when Facebook came out, and there's kind of MySpace and then Facebook. And this is where I saw deceit and him talking, Right. This is why I have a thing. I don't really care for social media, because it left some scars on my conscience and ego and stuff like that. But that's where I'm like, okay, if you cheated, then I'm going to go cheat, because by the time that I find out you cheat, I've got 5 cheats on you, you know?
Right.
And that's an experience I learned. I will never do it to anybody again. You never win when you fight fire with fire. You just get burned in the end. And so,
well, and you're actually doing more damage to yourself, because you're going against everything you stand for. So all you're doing is hurting yourself internally. And even if you say, hey, man, I slept with this person, he's going to be like, yeah, so what do I, like, he didn't really love you in the first place. He didn't care much about you. You really did love that person. And now you're doing, the ultimate thing that you never thought you would actually succumb to, and you did it. And now it's like, now you hate yourself more. And he just gets away scot-free, like, oh, well, I guess it's over.
Yep. I mean, both my first husband, well, and even the third one, but even those ones, like, I was together with the first one for a few years, and when we got divorced, 2 seconds later, a week later, he's with his ex-girlfriend, and then he has nothing to do with our daughter, and then impregnates her, and then has a whole family, you know? Second husband, 10-year marriage, when we split up, 2 seconds later, he's with somebody else, and then has another child, you know? And it's like, damn, I am such a crappy person,
right,
that these people didn't care 1 ounce about me.
Yeah, it's nothing worse when that happens, because then you start to see all your exes happy, and then you're not.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I must be the problem, because they're happy and someone else accepted them. They loved them. And I know he beat me, or I know he cheated, or he did all these things, but I probably should have loved him more. And it's like, you're going down these ridiculous psychological warp holes.
By this point, I am just like, oh my God, I just wanted to know the existence of anything. Right. Like, why the hell am I existing? Why the hell am I here? Like, this is not fun, you know? Like, I joined the military in 2010, honestly, to escape. Once again, I wanted to learn strength, because I had none. And I'd already worked corporate world, and I went in an E4, you know, and everybody's proud of me, and, you know, great. Well, so this is what happens to me, right? So my unit was getting deployed. I didn't end up getting to go with them, which is a total, once again, I hate myself for that, you know, because I stopped taking a medication and wasn't cleared to go. And I missed out on that experience. So I must be a screw up somewhere. That's the thoughts that used to be in my head. But so our unit was deploying to Iraq. And so we went to NTC down in California in training. And while we are there, right, I get a call from my brother saying the molester who molested us in 89 got out of prison, because a lot of people don't know this. Sex offender laws changed in like 92 to 94. Okay. And so the guy that molested us and the other children was sentenced to 22 years. Now, I'm a full-grown adult. I think about 30 when this happened, because I'm trying to put together math. I was 28 when I went in the military, so maybe about 30 or hitting 30. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine, like, all the therapy you've been through, all the crap, and, like, the one person you blamed all your crap for, all your shitty relationships, all your chaos, got out of prison, and he went to go work for a youth camp. And it's not the guy's fault. A lot of people can find God in jail. I don't dispute that at all, but they let him go, apparently. So anyways, he went to work for a youth camp, and what did he do? Oh my God. He, all these other boys, and then one convenient girl he molested, and they wanted us to retestify. Now, we didn't end up having to retestify as adults, but this is, you know, the world of the internet. So I typed in his name, read all the articles, and man, this is when you realize what PTSD is. I was a child again, like that's what it felt like. I was this little girl again, like just realizing I thought I healed from this. I thought because I went to therapy and took these pills, I thought I was fine. I thought I was over this. I thought I'd grown. No, that was all I kept thinking about, is all those children what they're going to experience, their insecurities, their bad relationships, domestic violence, choosing abusive people, getting into drug addiction, being overly sexually active or not wanting sex at all or touch, you know. Yeah. That's what killed me, is that how one person could spread a poison like that. And so now he's in for life, right? And but that stuff, so guess what, in the military, I was stationed in El Paso, Texas, wasn't far from the border of Mexico. So, hey, guess what we run to when times get tough? We run to drugs. So I got a hot UA and got, general and honorable discharge from the military. But I wrote like a 10-page thesis to the post commander, like, what would you do? I know what I did. I know what I did was wrong. What's messed up is if I drank alcohol, I wouldn't have been kicked out of the military. But because I had positive cocaine, you kicked me out. Now, that's biased in my opinion, but hey, whatever. You know, I love the whole stigma of alcohol is fine because it's legal, when I honestly think alcohol is one of the worst things in the world. Why? Because, you know, my next trauma, the guy was highly intoxicated. I watched my uncle die of 45 of he was alcoholic my whole life. And I remember him being in a nursing home at 45, and he was a correctional officer. I remember him pumping his kidneys and liver, kidneys and liver, and highlighter yellow. I couldn't believe a human being could be highlighter yellow. Oh my God. And he died not too long after, you know, that, like a few weeks. It looked like the most painful death in the world. You know,
were you like, at some point, did you just get like desensitized to all this stuff? Like, you see that, did you still have emotion for him and what he was going through at that time?
My uncle?
Yeah.
Or
when he was dying, you know, like,
so in this time of my life, because I've battled off and on with addiction, I can't tell you I just kept using, you know, it would just come up because that's my only coping mechanism. So I'd be sober and then it'd come up. I'd find a reason to run, you know, and relationships or whatever. I remember looking at him and telling him, I now understand what you're going through. Now, at this time, I had picked up a new habit, and that was pain pills. That kind of started actually before the military, and then after the military, it turned into heroin. You know, so I changed substances, even trying to get. I don't know, and I've heard a lot of people who are really honest with their addictions. They've done this. You know, like, I wasn't desensitized to him, but I was desensitized to a lot of things. Like, if you took me to a funeral, like, I don't cry, right. Probably because my concept of death is like, that's not them anyways, and that's not who they are, and they're so lucky to be out of this fucking place, honestly.
Right.
You know? So this is 2014. So another failed marriage, another kid who doesn't have a father, who just disappears and has another family, right? So 2014, I remember like sitting in my house and literally hearing the sound of silence. And if you've ever been in that situation, anybody, silence does have a sound. Okay. And you don't want to hear it. It's absolutely, and the heart can literally break to the point where people die. I felt my body giving up. I couldn't be a parent. I mentally just felt like I had nothing to give, nothing to offer. No one ever wanted to love me, be with me. I couldn't pick the right people. I couldn't make anybody happy. Going to college wasn't good enough. The people I chose wasn't good enough. So therefore, I'm just not good enough, you know? And when I went to see my uncle, I know I had been maybe a few weeks sober because I had been like to a treatment center and stuff like that. And after seeing him, I convinced my parents, because I moved back in with them. Usually it happens with after divorces. You move back with your parents for some reason or split up. Convinced my parents that I was going to go out and I just need to pick up my medication, which was the truth. But I ended up taking a side street to, relapse, because that was a justification. See, my uncle, like, that was a justification to run away. And during this time frame, I had came across gang members, and so this person that I knew was a Crip leader. Not that I care about whoever. I'm not. I don't care about gangs. I'm sorry. I don't care their status, but this is when he decided to very badly violate me, make all the other guys come in and violate me. And that's when I just recently kind of worked through. But when I found out that this guy was a known predator on the streets, right? Mm-hmm. This guy has been sexually assaulting women for a very, very long time. I didn't know who was sicker, the world that knew about it, because if you mentioned his name, they're like, "Oh, no, yeah, he's a rapist or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, that's great. That's great that you all know this, and you guys are so cool in the gang that nobody does anything. Like, this is a sick world."
Well, and a lot of it has to do with obviously power, but also fear.
Well, yeah, but he's preying on women that were using drugs, because, hey, who's going to tell? They're not going to tell because they ain't worth shit, right?
Right, and then half of them probably overdosed, and and
yeah,
not credible.
One girl died.
Police.
One girl died, and they know it's from him. Now, it doesn't matter; he's in prison now. But so after that assault happened, I remember I kept thinking, I need to get these pills. I need to get this rape kit pills. I don't know what these guys had. Like, telling you my background, I'm not very sexually active like that. So I thought I was like bleeding profuse. I mean, so I sat in the ER parking lot, didn't know what to do. I called the VA crisis line and said, "I'm not trying to kill myself, but like, just been very violated, and my parents were texting me nasty stuff because I didn't come home, and I had nobody. I sat in an ER parking lot by myself, and they called somebody out from a domestic violence place that walked in with me to the hospital to find out it was the wrong hospital. There's only one hospital that did all that stuff. And I'm like, so you're telling me now I need to wait between this very horrific trauma? And because there's only 2 forensic nurses, and like, okay, so cool.
Well, that, and you're trying to keep it hush hush, and now more people are going to know about it, because now you have to go to another hospital and tell the story all over again.
So I ended up, my parents shut off my phone. They were that pissed off at me because I at this point they were like, "We're done with you, we can't trust you," like blah blah, just nasty stuff. And I just that's disassociation right there. Man, the world was non-existent. It felt like nothing. It felt just a weirdness of PTSD, just disconnected. The world was not existent.
Well, at a time where you're most vulnerable and you actually need somebody to just kind of be there for you and just love you, and the people that you probably consider that love you on the highest level are kind of being dismissed, and maybe not dismissed. Well, they probably don't know what's going on, but still.
They didn't. But in that moment, I felt, this is what ran through my head. All these years that I have been kind and taking care of others, and I sit in a parking lot by myself because nobody gives a shit about me. Right. That shit hurts. Yeah. To have a stranger have to come out to walk with me into a hospital. And so, like, I went to my best friend's house, her husband, who was not a great person either. We were both, like, on the same cycle of life with men. I said, can you get my friend? I was like, she's sleeping. He did not like me at all, right? And I was like, can you tell her friend's been really badly assaulted, and I just need her to take me to the hospital, because I was in no mind frame to even drive anymore at this point. I didn't even sleep, right? And this was the day I was trying to find heroin, and I could not find it. It's like, for some divine reason, I was not meant to find it, because I was going to kill myself on it. I was aimed to kill. So, because at this point, F life, honestly, that was my motto. There's nothing to live for. And it sucks that people are like, but you have kids. My kids are better off without me, because I just can't find them happiness. I can't find stability, like they're better off with my parents. So don't give me that,
And you probably feel super unlucky, and anything that's near you is probably going to suffer with you. So
yeah, like if you give them to me, I'm just going to shelter them away from society, because I think everybody's going to hurt them.
Right.
So my friend is driving me. Finally, actually, what's sad is I ended up at my therapist's office, just walked in there, and I said I didn't know where else to go. I was the only person that I had, and she ended up calling my parents and said, your daughter, actually, this is what happened to her. And then my mom felt really, horrific. She didn't know. It wasn't her fault. And so she turned back my phone. She turned my phone back on, and so my friend Sherry comes and gets me, and we're heading to the hospital. And I remember her getting a call, and her husband. She starts turning around the car. Like, instead of going to the hospital, she starts, turning around. I said, what are you doing? She said, well, Kenny's mad because I didn't tell him goodbye. We were both in these bad relationships, okay? And I was like, Sherry, your best friend got raped. Not by one. I don't get one. I get multiple people. And you're turning around this fucking car because he's mad you didn't say goodbye. And so I looked behind me. We're driving, right? I looked behind me to see if there was cars behind me. And I opened the door. I said, fuck you and fuck everybody else in this world. And I bolted out the car as we were moving. Now, this is like, I do have a head injury from that. It was really bizarre. Like, I didn't know I busted my skull, right? I just like came to, and all of a sudden ambulance are coming and stuff. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I was not trying to take my life. I had a really bad day. I just need to get to the hospital. I'm so sorry. Because there's me. I'm so sorry. It must be my fault. I'm so sorry I had to inconvenience your day. And the paramedics were like really nice to me, right? Yeah. And I was like, why are they being so nice to me? I didn't understand, because like in my eyes, I don't even remember. I remember opening the door, and that's about it. And they're like, it's okay. And then they put me in a neck brace. I'm like, why did they put me in a neck brace? And then I get into the hospital, into like this big old like operating room, and I said, I need to call my mom. And they said, okay. And so I call my mom. My mom's freaked out. She goes, Lindsay, I've been calling every hospital. I didn't know you were under Jane Doe. She goes, I thought you were dead. And I'm like, I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm always fine. Right? It's always my answer. I'm good. I'm fine. Right, I'm strong. I'm strong. I'm the strong one. I can do this. And so this doctor gets on the phone and he goes, hi, ma'am, this is the neurologist. I'm like, why am I with a neurologist? He goes, your daughter jumped from a moving vehicle. We know that something really bad happened to her, sexual assault. He said she's got bleeding in the brain, and we're going to do some more tests to make sure we don't have to do surgery, or if we, whatever, because this is the beginning part. And I remember him saying to give me a shot like a fentanyl. And I said, no, you can't do that. I'm a heroin addict. And he goes, I didn't ask. And I said, but you can't, because I'm just a nothing, You can't give me that. I'm just a nobody. I'm just a stupid person. And
would you consider that day to be like the bottom of all the bottoms? As far as like mentally and emotionally, how you felt?
Yes. Yes. I mean, I do hit another bottom after that. You think that's the bottom, but these bottoms actually build me up at the end of the story.
Right.
And
yeah, just spoiler alert, guys. It does get a little better.
It does. It does. Now, the cops came and asked if I wanted to report this and all that, and I'm like, no, he's a gang member. I'm not going to do that because I was feared. I thought he's going to kill me if I do that. Can't do that. They did all the DNA stuff and all these pills. I remember trying to brush my hair, and I'm like, that crap hurt. I didn't know I have no memory of hitting the curb of the concrete,
Even to this day?
And no, I don't. My friend, and she's still my best friend, she says, I thought you were dead. She goes, you look dead. And I'm like, I don't remember any of that. So I don't know if that's the first near death. I mean, because I couldn't tell you it went anywhere, but something changed.
Mm-hmm.
Now for a year, I remember being in the hospital, and I was like, I can't taste or smell anything. And the doctor said, well, some of these pills, because they give you like an anti-HIV and just all these hardcore pills after a sexual assault. Like, he goes, sometimes those pills can cause that effect. Well, come to find out that when you hit the right place at the back of your head where the sensors are, you're like sensors for smell and taste. Whew, yeah. So I lost my taste of smell and taste, anything I ate tasted nothing. There's nothing, no smells, no taste. And I learned that you learn through these experiences that you take so much for granted sometimes, like just by being able to smell something or taste something, like for you seeing,
yeah.
Like you don't know until you lose it. Now, luckily, about a year later, I remember the first day I smelled like this fabric softener. My mom was like doing laundry, and I was like in heaven. I was like, I think it's going to come back.
Right. You could have smelled cat shit. It wouldn't have mattered. It was just the fact that you smelled something at all. Obviously.
Because I'll tell you, you eat on memory. Like every food that I ever loved, like ice creams or anything, tasted like garbage, and everything actually natural tasted good to me. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy. And so due to that event, don't think I stayed sober for any means, because that was every justification to keep on going and keep on killing myself until I get there, until I succeed. I mean, I was into such a state of, how come I can't exit this world? Why can't I die right? Like, why do I screw up that bad that I can't even kill myself? Right? That is the stuff that ran through my brain.
Right.
Like, God don't even want to open the doors up there.
Right. Before you finish all this, how is your brother doing? Like, even now and at this point in time? Because I know you said he was doing really bad. He was acting out and all that.
Yeah, he's calmed down a lot. He picks chaotic relationships like I have. He's toned down a lot. He's got his own kind of company. Unfortunately, these events that happen where your children really pulled us apart. I never really had a brother, even though I had a brother. So it's always been me fighting the world against it's just me. Right. I've never had anybody protect me. It sucks. And now, now that we're a little older, I remember him telling me, he goes, I'm sorry I wasn't there for you. And it really hurts him, but we don't talk a lot or anything. But for the most part, like he's better, still drinks and smokes pot, but like,
it's not
hey, he's doing okay in my book,
Right. I just wanted to see where, because he kind of started off a lot worse than you, but you end up with probably the harsher story. So
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And, cause he was in and out of jail as an adolescent and all that. Now I hadn't been at that point until I was 33 after that sexual assault. It is actually when I went to treatment centers, and, when I went to treatment centers, after my second divorce, it's like, where do I find friends? And so of course, my natural instinct is all these people, it's called a trauma bond. I've come to find out, like, I'm like, these people, they get me. They understand me. We had nothing in common but drug addiction now when I look back at it. But I could save them all, right? Could save them all. These poor people were homeless, young girls prostituting themselves. And I was like, and they were such good people. I met them sober, And so I came across the world of different. I don't know if you want to classify them as different addicts. There's some, like, I was blessed to have money, right? Whether working or VA money. Then there's some people in the drug world that have other means to get their drugs, which is more the criminal world. I'd never seen that side of addiction because I was kind of a closet user, if that makes sense. Right. And so I didn't really hang around a lot of people. And this is my first experience with this. So I end up catching a felony charge in the 2015. Yeah, it's about 2015, because I was hanging around people, and it doesn't matter what it was. I was hanging around with wrong people doing not so great things. And God, I remember my dad had just got me a freaking apartment to get me on my feet, to get my life together. And 2 seconds later, I get a felony charge. They evict me from this apartment. My dad had to dish out all this money because he co-signed and his credit's like perfect. And he hated me for years. I swear to God, he hated me for years. And so now I'm facing a felony charge, and I was sitting in jail. They weren't even going to bond me out, my parents. They're like, we're going to let you sit. And I'm like, well, how come you bonded Kevin out all the time? Like, why are you harsher on me? It always felt like I got the harsher punishment because I was the child that was supposed to do all these great things, but I could never meet everybody's expectations. Like, no matter what I did, like, I just wanted to make everybody happy. That's all I ever wanted to do. By doing that, it made me completely unhappy because the life of a perfectionist, is horrible. Mm-hmm. Horrible, right? Yeah. And so by the time I, got my sentence and got on probation, I was absolutely defeated. And I remember going to check in with this probation officer, and she was kind of rude with me, and I said, lady, I'm just here to check in with you. Let me tell you how my week's been. I've been, I went through a sexual assault, tried to kill myself. I don't want to live anymore. I'm just checking in because your society wants me to do this and wants me to do all this. And like, I told her, like, in a nutshell, a lot of my story. And I looked up, and this lady's eyes had tears in them. She said, the world will be such a loss without you. She goes, you're supposed to go on low-level probation. She goes, I'm not going to let you die. And she says, what can I do to help you? And that was the only human being in this moment that I was like, I don't even know you. You're a PO and you want to help me? Right. Like, give me a break.
Well, that's one of the things we talked about the other night, where I said about there's people out there that go above and beyond. And, and I've said on here and to you, it's just about how, don't be the reason why someone wants to kill themselves or be the last reason, because, you're hanging on by a thread. You want to die, and you're looking for every reason. Oh,
I told her.
Right. And she gave you a reason to live. And she
did. And she did.
And she didn't have to do that. Her job doesn't really entitle, like, she just can just go do her job and just say, okay, next, go on to rehab, go do whatever you got to do. But she actually went out of her way to treat you like, a human and someone that she cared about.
She was in my life as a PO just for a short period of time, and till this day. And when I moved from Colorado, when I saw her, I said, you did save me. It might have not saved me perfectly, and I didn't get cured and everything got all lottie-dottie. My life was perfect since then. But her words, she goes, I said, don't tell me this bull. I remember telling her, like, don't give me this bullshit talk of that my life is worth something. I said, you don't know me. I said, she goes, I have met a lot of people in my life, and there are some scumbags. And she goes, and you're not one of them. And she goes, I'm not going to let you die. And I said, well, if you want to help me, I need to get to rehab. And she goes, and I said, and if I don't get there, then you need to lock me up, And that was the truth, because I know what I needed. But she was asking me, what do I need to do? She wasn't telling me this is what you need to do. She said, what can I do to help you? And
right. She just looked through looked past all your problems and just said, okay, what do you need?
Yeah.
Didn't care about what you've been through. And, whereas most people on the surface would look at you and go, like, she's damaged goods. What's the point?
Yeah, here's another felon for you, or another junkie for you, or you know what I'm saying, like whatever, like just discard of them with the rest of the pack. Let's mass
Because
kill them all.
the world's very close-minded. I mean, even when, I've gone into the Social Security building just to, update whatever my documents and whatever's going on, and a lot of them in there, they look at you like, oh, you're just another person on disability, sucking money off the government. They don't look at you like what you've been through and how you got this disability and all, like, so,
Yep.
and that's on a different level. But like with you, like, with them, when it comes to drugs and all that, like, yeah, they just throw you away. And even like when you said you were younger, when, the second time you were molested, and they just looked at you like you were a slut because, you're a young girl trying to get drugs. So you probably, gave up sex to get it. And you're just saying that now in hindsight. But it's like, you don't really know what someone goes through. You don't, emotionally and psychologically. And it's, it's how damage, gets piled on. And so, yeah.
So what's weird, and I don't know the medical term of it, when I did that, like, podcast with Jeff Maher, he said it. I swear to God, something reset in my brain from that head injury. Like, and I have read things about people who have got traumatic brain injuries, and then all of a sudden they can play a piano, or they're something changes in them, right? Mm-hmm. I don't, like I said, I don't know the medical term for it. Something started changing. Like, I mean, it took about a year, but now I believe in something else, whether I politically say it, God forbid if I say Krishna or Buddha or God, or if I don't say it right, somebody will get mad out there. It doesn't matter what my beliefs are. Like, what made me better is what I believe. And so it was really weird, when I came across that probation officer at the end of 2015, and I started noticing, I had a dream play out, like, years ago. It made no sense, and it was, like, playing out in real life, like what they call deja vu. Mm-hmm. Like, strange things were starting to happen. I started noticing, like, I was at the right place, right moment, right time, and that this existence is God. I swear God was going to give me to the last day of December, and then I was going to start healing. Crap you not. So I didn't end up going to rehab, and she put a warrant out for me, and she was kind, and that's what our agreement was, right? And it was the last day of December, and I got picked up for this warrant, and all these strange things started occurring. I learned about synchronicities, and now in any of these, like, spiritual awakenings or experiencing, you have to know, like, something has to crack inside of you, whether that be physically from a brain or, something in somebody's storyline. You break. You have to break. Right? And something, and this is my experience, and I don't care what anybody has to say with it, something was present with me. I experienced very supernatural things. Looking into this head injury and stuff like that, these are possibilities that we're dealing with a rewiring of the brain. The brain is an immaculate thing, and whether someone wants to say it's trauma, this or that, no, something changed. Like, I was a different person. All of a sudden I was able to forgive my molester. I started thinking positive, like, my mindset changed. I became the person that was kind of annoying, that was so positive. I became the girl they called the holy roller. And then it's not that I believe in, bits and pieces of the Bible, okay? I believe in the golden rule of treat others the way you want to be treated. But I became this whole other person. And just, it was weird. I could even pick up on people. Like, it was like I could see inside of them and see all of their traumas without even them saying anything to me. This is when I saw, like, weird extraterrestrial stuff, and that's not uncommon in Colorado Springs. And something was with me. Something was with me. Something was helping me. Something was telling me it's going to be okay, right? Now, I saw a lot of, and it's still hard to talk about, just I guess because of judgment. But I did experience supernatural stuff, and I'll tell you what, if that shit didn't ever step into my life, and I didn't experience or see what I saw, I don't. At that point in my life, you had to show me the existence of something else in order to want to live anymore. So, by all means, I experienced some really bizarre stuff, and I actually stayed sober for a year and a half. I was on probation still. I then come across, which was husband number 3. Thought he was, I thought he was the one too. Got pregnant. I had violated probation, and we had absconded. It's called, tried to run from probation at one time, but I ended up getting pregnant and we got the warrant caught up with us, and they had offered me 3 years in prison because I was pregnant. Thought if I went out that I'd use when I was pregnant. I'm like, that's not true. I wouldn't. I'd never do that to a baby, and I really wouldn't. But in their eyes, I get it. They've seen a lot. I didn't end up having to take a 3-year prison sentence where I'd have my baby in prison, but I ended up having, my probation officer at this time, which is a really great guy too. He went out of his way to find a program that would take me to have my baby in a treatment program, because that is what the DA wanted. They wanted me to birth my baby in a structured environment. So I literally, it was like 30, I think I just turned 35, right? I'm pregnant. Me and he's now my ex-husband, found out when we got to jail, because he was on probation too. It's a great pick. That I was pregnant, and we were all excited and stuff like that. Like, yeah, we're having a baby, But I literally had to go to this. I had spent 6 months in county jail, which is absolutely horrible. And then went to straight from there to a kind of locked up facility for women and children. And now in jail, if you're pregnant, God forbid, they don't give you any prenatal care whatsoever. It's the crappiest ever. And so I didn't even have a sonogram that whole time I was pregnant, except when I got out. And now my last husband at this moment, he ended up, because he violated probation too, ended up going back to prison, right? And so I was out, and I got my first sonogram. When I went back and got the second one, I think I was almost, due for the baby, but the doctor told me that my baby was growth restricted. I had like 1% amniotic fluid, and I needed to go have him, I had to go to the hospital right now. And so I had to, all my kids were C-sections, but I had to go have an emergency C-section at 34 weeks, give birth, stay in the hospital for 3 days, and then come back and cart my baby around to groups and a structured setting and, do all this stuff. And at this point, I had learned that all this trauma, I'm just a strong person. I can overcome anything. I got used to it. It was nothing to me to carry my baggage and your baggage, and that's what I thought in my head. And so here I go again, thinking now I can create this family. I can create this family because he loves me, and we've been through hell and back. And so, move us forward here. Like I said, I stayed sober a year and a half. But sorry, let me scoot back there for a second. So why I am in that facility for mothers, and just gave birth to my son. The DA calls me. Now it finally catches up that the guy that raped me, CODIS, which is, if you know CODIS is, that's the DNA stuff, came back a match. They put a warrant out for him for the sexual assault, and they wanted me to testify. They wanted me to testify. I'm like, dude, I told you guys a long time ago. I'll tell you what happened, but I'm not testifying.
Is this the gang member?
Yes. Okay. Yes. It took so 2014 is when it happened. It was now 2018 when all of this stuff, and I didn't ever think I was going to testify. Right. I mean, I thought his life would catch up to him, like in drug dealing or whatever. And so I have a husband in prison, a new baby. I'm on probation. Now I got to testify. I got to suck all this up, but I can do it because, hey, I'm just that good, right? I don't know what psychologically happens when you hit that much trauma, and or in postpartum.
Used to it, that it's just when something as good is happening, you don't know how to accept it. But when the bad stuff is happening, you're probably just kind of, you're probably okay with it.
At this time, I thought I had this wonderful husband who loved me, and maybe at one time he did. I don't know. Now things have changed, obviously, but so 2018, they started putting these court dates out for this sexual assault trial, and the game that a lot of people play that are in these situations is they push court dates out. Oh, I can't do this court date. And they push it out because they know, he pushed it out to trial. So every time I get ready, I think I'm going to be testifying, this guy would push the trial out. So all at the same time, I'm doing probation. I've got a new baby at home. I've got a husband in prison. I'm just like doing all this crap. And 2019, finally, he couldn't push the trial out anymore. I think he thought I wasn't going to show up is what it was. But I couldn't go on letting this guy continue to do this and letting other women die or suffer because I couldn't do it with my conscience. I couldn't be like, I was weak. I was scared. But I'm not going to lie. Like, I was scared to death when this whole trial was going on. Like, he's going to find me and kill me. Some of his friends know where I live. He's going to kill my baby. He's going to kill my family,
Right.
And so 2019, I had to see this man I hadn't seen for 4 years, right face to face to him. And they told me I'd be testifying for probably just like an hour. It ended up being 8 hours. And I'm not shy about, I knew they were going to bring out the drugs. I'm not scared. That's what it had to do with. I went to go buy drugs and this stuff happened. But under the stipulations of sexual assault or any sort of abuse, it doesn't make it okay if somebody was using drugs. It makes it actually worse. And the fact that I had tried to take my life would have made him have a murder charge. So, I testified and did all that. I made it off probation, but I'd already pre-contemplated in my head I was going to relapse. I had every justification in my brain, actually, was I off probation at that time? I'm sorry. Yes, maybe I was. So, sorry, I was off probation. But I didn't stay. I mean, I didn't. I had to numb. I don't know. I don't know what anybody else would have done. I numbed that shit. Yeah. I mean, it was difficult to sit in front of somebody. I felt like it was a reenactment of being a child. Is exactly how I felt when I was facing like the molester. I didn't have to testify as a child, but that's what it reminded me of. Like I was reliving this moment of facing somebody. And
well, maybe this is your way of getting closure with him because you got closure with the other guy. And obviously in the beginning, all the memories are coming back, things that you didn't want to remember, but now you can actually hopefully close the chapter on it by putting him in jail.
Well, I have a lot of, yeah, I don't know why my heart is so freaking nice. And I still, I don't know. I don't know why I take these horrific times, and I never want anybody to suffer the way I did. I never want anybody in this whole world to feel as alone as I did, or as empty, or like nobody cared. Like that is like my mission in life. Whereas other people take these horrific events that happen to them and they project them out as hate onto the world, and they hurt others because they hate what was done to them. And I do the exact opposite. So I don't understand why. I guess it's just free will or choice that we end up, doing. And even though I wasn't using that much at this time, just enough to kind of numb myself a little bit. But I ended up cleaning up my credit and thought, hey, I'm going to move my family to Nebraska to get away from, all that stuff in Colorado Springs. And it'll be better here. We don't know anybody. I bought a house out here. And my husband, my last ex-husband now, he had got out of prison last year. Well, right when I bought this house in March of last year, they called me with the verdict for the sexual assault. And I'll tell you, I never wished that upon anybody testifying. I still don't feel what maybe some people feel, like a sense of empowerment. Not at all. I don't. It's something I'll work through. But he got all counts felony 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and got a life sentence.
Wow.
And I felt like he got one for every woman that never was able to come forward or never had the, courage to.
Yeah.
And he wasn't the only one involved either, And my defense to that was, I'm sorry, I didn't get everybody's ID when they came through the door,
Yeah.
And my fear also at that time was, what if somebody says he wasn't guilty to one of these things? Then what would I feel inside? That's another scary thing when you're facing a situation like this. What if the jury said not guilty to this one? Then I'd say it was my fault, right? But that's scary in itself. And at the same time, then it's like, now this guy's going to die in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's your fault too, but it's not my fault because he's the one that made the choice to do these actions knowing it was wrong. He had no case. They had no case because he was not a good person, because of whatever his father did to him. His father was a gang member, and I can only imagine the abuse that he had witnessed as a kid, but in the end, we still make a choice to either keep replaying the scene or changing something,
Right.
That's what I don't understand. And like my whole life, I've literally tried to study people. Like I am such a people watcher. I go to concerts and I don't know if maybe you've experienced that too. Maybe it's a defense mechanism, thinking like, if I can figure out why people do bad things, maybe bad things won't happen to me.
Right. Yeah.
And I have not figured out that equation yet. But so last year, my husband gets out of prison and, didn't stay sober. He ends up just going on one, and our little one gets taken away. He's in foster right now. But luckily in December, this will be closing out and he'll be coming home. But my marriage definitely fell apart. And my child was taken away because of this really very bad relationship. Now this one turned physical and very emotional. And I don't want to say, I think a lot of people use the word narcissist a lot, but I've never seen the games people play on phones. I didn't know people hide so much. I mean, the psychological abuse of somebody telling me, oh, you're creating shit from your diagnosis. Like you're making stuff up when I knew I wasn't. I am so good at reading people, but I'm so compassionate and loving that I'm willing to forgive them at the same time. That's how bad it is, Like someone, when I'm with somebody, like my heart is all in, and that is my life, right? And we will walk to hell and back together. That's the kind of person I am, loyal as hell.
Yep.
But the problem is, I find that this generation does a quick replacement. They don't want to work through hard times. They'll just go find somebody else on some site or something, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the heartache that I just endured.
Quick fix.
He was younger than me too. Yeah. You know, and I had to file protection order on this one. That was a hard thing to do because I can't heal. Not only am I grieving over loss after loss, like, because of the pain that he pulled out of me, I realized that I hadn't healed through a damn thing I'd been through. I thought I had. I literally thought I had. So January of this year, I took a lethal. Now people always have this stigma that if you use heroin, you inject it, and like everybody who's a heroin addict is a IV user. Okay, well that's not true. Okay, there are people that smoke it, and that's how I did it. But going through all this stuff and so in January, I tried to take my life, and I had told my ex-husband, well, it was my husband at the time, but I said, I'm going to kill myself. I said, give me a syringe. And he says, no. And I said, do you want a bag of dope? And he literally gave me a syringe for a bag of dope. And that's how much my life was worth, right? That was all the confirmation I needed.
Right.
And so I took a full syringe of, some decent heroin. And this is where, this NDE thing comes in. I crap you not, like, I knew where I was going. Like, I knew I was going home. And, now becoming part of this community of NDEs or whatever, I'm not losing my mind, because how did other people experience this? No matter what their near death was, how do we all have a similar thing going on? Well, to me, it looked like some planet. There's grass, and there was a guy in like this brown toga and purple sash. I knew I was home. And it was like, I could see, it's like my body was like pixelated, but like I had form, but not like human form. But I sure as hell had my personality. I'll tell you that. And the guy had a clipboard. And I do believe my life is written out. It has felt that way. I felt like I was supposed to go on a horrific mission. And now either that's, you want to say psychological or whatever, I don't care, because it's helping me heal. So, I was told, I said, don't you say it. And the guy told me up there, Lindsay, you got to go back. And then all of a sudden, I'm back in my body, and there's vomit everywhere on the ground. And I knew well, at least I tried to kill myself, and I did, but I'm not supposed to die. And corporate stepped in to tell me, you ain't going nowhere. And once again, when it's not your time, it's like, what do you do with that? What do you do with that? I was spiritual before this, right? Mm-hmm. After the head injury, when something changed inside me, it's like I got connected to something else, and my belief system's totally different. Like, I do believe in these frequencies, vibrations, consciousness, and all that. Why? Because I've experienced it, and I've experienced other things that other people have experienced, and we're not all mass hallucinating. Okay, so something did something, and now this was the hardest lesson to learn, but it wasn't just, somebody told me, you don't have 500 problems, you have one problem, that was drugs. I was like, that sounds pretty good, but also relationships. This one hurt the worst. This one absolutely hurt the worst. And, Um, but it's like it had to happen so I could actually wake my butt up and start realizing that I had a lot more healing to do. So I do EMDR, which it really does do something to the brain. You know, this relationship hurt not because it hurt because he couldn't value my worth. That's what my mindset changed. I'm not a bad person. I didn't deserve bad things to happen to me. I didn't go out searching for more trauma, even though we all know that trauma leads to a lot more trauma and trauma. Don't act like I didn't go searching for, hey, come trauma, come find me. Let me try to recreate this. No, but it's an experience I went through. I don't choose to live there.
Mm-hmm.
I choose to go forward with it. And I have now come across a community of just really intriguing, psychics and people on the spiritual level that I am, because whether it be the head injury that did it or whatever, something changed inside of me. And I am on this internal mission to get to the root. I feel like I got this, it's a quote in that movie Labyrinth I told you to watch, but he says sometimes the way forward is sometimes the way back. And I do believe that. You have to go all the way back in time, to the beginning to figure out what happened and kind of unravel all these knots to figure out your who you are.
Right.
So
how long have you been sober?
6 months this month.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yes.
You feel good?
And I do. I mean, I've even managed to go through a divorce now, a divorce and all this other stuff, and I still stay sober. One thing I recommend for anybody that struggles with opiate addiction is a Vivitrol shot. A lot of people know about Suboxone and all that, but I take the Vivitrol shot. It's a once a month shot, and it really helps me. Like, I don't even think about the stuff. I don't even think about the crap. And even if you were to use, like, it wouldn't do anything.
Right.
And I don't like Suboxone because once I knew Suboxone stole on the streets and traded for drugs, it's a no-go for me, Like,
yeah.
I just feel like that's another addiction. You just replace it like a methadone. Not to say that it don't help, and if it does help for someone, good for them. But you're just replacing one addiction with another,
right.
And so I just don't feel like you're accomplishing.
Yeah, no, I just want to, so to wrap up a little bit here, like, what are you up to, like, this current moment, and, what do you feel like is the future? Like, what lies next for you?
This current moment, I feel like I don't know if you want to say purpose or mission. Well, I mean, I do internally healing stuff. I go to groups and therapy and all that, but I feel like I've had such a story that I'm meant to share this story, and I don't know what that does. I might never meet somebody who it helps them in some way, because I'm not scared to be real with what I've experienced and all that. I don't want to live in guilt and shame anymore. That's like my mission. By me healing and then being able and vulnerable to share my story, maybe that helps somebody, and then that helps me heal as well,
Yeah, that's complete opposite of what you were doing when you were young, where you were avoiding conversating about your problems, and now
I finally have a voice. I finally have turned my darkness into strength. Those dark times made me strong, have made me, I still have fears, but more fearless, I have boundaries. I have hopes. I have visions and goals, and I still remain that caring, loving person. And I have self-worth and value. And I think I'm an awesome person. And if I was to go back and change any one of those experiences, it would have changed maybe who I am now. And I actually like who I'm becoming. So it's shitty as it might say, I can't change any of those moments with any person I've ever met or anything, because I think I'm an incredible person. I think I'm a loving and beautiful person. And it's because of that. And I think sometimes the only way to get like really to the light is you have to walk through the darkness, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of said a little bit to you the other night, but yeah, when I first, when you said yes to talking on the phone, and I knew I was going to instantly like you, because you can tell that there's a lot of, damage there and all, but you were, I don't know, you were still smiling, and you were still just laughing and having fun, and where you shouldn't be that way. Like, you should be suicidal. You should still be just saying fuck life and all that, but you were still so positive still, and you were just, very, it's very inspiring, but also, like I said, your strength came through in the conversation. And I knew you were a person I was going to keep in touch with forever, because you just, like I said, it's you don't meet many people that have been through anywhere near what you've been through, but that are still going. And it's, like I said, it's very amazing. And, you're a very beautiful woman outside, but, internally, like, what you've, like how you're still this person is actually completely impossible. And, I'm very happy.
It amazes.
We're just very happy to tell your story.
Yeah, thank you. And it amazes me how far I've come, and I'm still obviously alive to even tell anybody my story. And I still hold my good composure. And, it's crazy that I have found value and worth and self-esteem out of all of this, because at one time, like, I was in such a dark place. You could never, if somebody told me, like, list 5 things you like about yourself and all these things you don't like about yourself, I couldn't name 2 things I liked about myself.
Right.
Now I can give you a long list of great things. Like, I think I'm an incredible person with honesty and loyalty and love and compassion. And I think I'm funny. I mean, but I'm real. Right. And I can't say that I've met so many people like that, because everybody wears a mask.
Mm-hmm.
And they're scared to be who they are. And I'm not.
Right.
This is me, and this is my story. And if you don't like it or care for it, then that's because you don't like something about yourself, really.
Right. And that, again, that's what I said to you off mic just when we were talking the other night, because it was just like, oh, this is like, you're just honest, and there's no, like, I'm waiting for you to kind of censor yourself, and you're not. It's even why I said what I said in the beginning of the podcast. I'm like, she's going to say some very honest shit, and it's going to come off however you want it to come off. But, there's not many people out here that are just going to be this vulnerable and naked and just raw and just say, here, this is everything that I've been through. I'm not going to sugarcoat what I've been through, but also the dumb mistakes that I made. You're also, putting yourself into blame for some of the things you've been through, even though, a lot of it, there's no one deserves to be raped or any of that. But, like I said, you put every element out there, and there's no, again, people are going to listen, and people are going to hear your story, whether it's through this podcast or someone else's or wherever, and they're going to just go, oh, she's crazy, or she's a drug addict. But again, they don't understand you. They don't know your story. And it only takes people who have just been through a lot of shit like me that just go like, yeah, like, she's amazing. And
like I always say, just, I don't believe anybody has the right to judge unless you've literally walked through somebody else's shoes and felt the pain and internal struggles that they have dealt with, that nobody has the right to judge them. And if you are judging them, you honestly hate something or lack something in yourself. And I truly believe that. If there's something that somebody says or if I think someone is being nasty or something, it's really because maybe there's something in me that's off, It's not them. It's something that it reflects in me that I don't like.
Right.
So, you can't judge anybody else.
Yeah.
Unless you've been there.
Yep.
It's just not fair. Like, keep your nasty, not yours, but like nasty remarks to yourself, because you don't know what the hell I've walked through.
Right. No matter how much you can explain it, you can't. It's kind of like a dream. Like you'll wake up from a dream that if you explained it to somebody, it doesn't sound that scary, or it doesn't sound that exciting or whatever. But the feeling that you get from when you come out of it, you're shaking or you're sweating, and it might not. Again, on the surface, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but it's just the tone of the dream. And the same thing if you're explaining your life. Like, yes, it's dark and there's a lot of horrific things in there, but you still didn't go through the physical pain. You didn't go through the mental, you sitting in a parking lot bleeding and just coming to terms. Yeah. You didn't go through just being so scared and vulnerable that, like I said, you can explain the basics, but you can't really explain the feeling and the tone of it.
Yeah. And I'm not cured by all means. I go through those dark moments, just like, I was listening to your thing on Facebook and how you're just talking about your thoughts and I get in those moments too. Like I get scared to walk outside of the house and I want to be around people, but I don't want to be around people, but I do want to be around people. And, it's just so many, contradictions in my brain and I want them to shut up half the time but like I said, I'm only growing from here, and I become more wiser and I think I'm a totally beautiful person. I think inside and out, I really do believe that. And I think you are too.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's podmatch.com.
Hell yeah, baby. So the thought that just crossed my mind is like dark and so silly. I was just like, I should just ask her to legally marry me so she can't get married to any assholes again. We don't even have to meet up. We could just be married that you can't legally ever get married to any drug addicts or anyone shitty again.
Oh.
But
hey, you're not so bad looking yourself. So.
I appreciate it. But yeah, let's wrap this up and
okay.
Obviously, like I said, we're gonna stay in touch and keep talking and anything you need someone to talk to when you're going through your shit, just please know I'm here.
Okay.
And like I said, trauma is trauma, and the only way you get through it is hopefully finding people that are like-minded and have been through similar shit and just can be there for each other because. As we said about the brain, when you're going through the worst of times and when you need someone to text or call you, and I have good friends, I have good people in my life, but they never seem to want to message me when I'm in the darkest places. And I hate being like so, you feel so weak when you're just like, help me. But
yes.
Yep. And so I try to make sure everyone in my circle knows that, I'm always here. Like, don't be afraid to ask me, and I put that on you as well. Like, please, you need somebody, just, we're going to talk regardless, but I mean, even when you're in your shittiest times, please just get a hold of me. And
but you call me first, because see, I'm still in that mentality. I've been everybody else's savior, and like, it's still hard to reach out for help, I have the mentality, I'm so strong.
Yeah.
And when I get into those moments, it's still tough. I just have my parents. Like, my parents are my main support, and that's about it. And I get scared of other people's intentions sometimes. Like, in my town, like I just get scared of people, I guess. I'm scared.
I don't blame you. Trust me. It's hard for me to let people in, and I always do. And I go back and forth with it. I'm always just, I get the trying to be overly nice and you get fucked over so many times, and but if you stop being nice, your life is going to be different. You're not going to get good things in your life. There's a lot of good things that will come from me being kind, and it's just, you can't
This
stop.
is my niceness. This is my way. I mean, I'm already nice as it is, but this is my way of giving, nothing to gain for me. Luckily life has set me up to where I don't need to work anymore, but I just never want somebody to feel like they're in the dark ever, or that they're ashamed of who they are, or I just don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, fine. You can wrap it up now.
Yeah, we've been doing this for 2 hours.
Sorry.
No, you're please. I'd rather you be you and we share the full story. I don't want to, some people, well, why don't you put it into 2 parts? No, I don't, because where am I going to cut it? Where am I going to put the second? Like, we're going to start with the first molestation, then the second one be this. Fuck that. We're just going to do the whole thing. You listen to when you listen to it. Good thing with these, you could pause and play and rewind and fast forward and so on. And so everyone has the luxury. Just, the luxury is that you didn't have to go through this story. All you got to do is listen to it. So you didn't have to go through it. It's her story. And, she's still standing. She's still smiling and laughing. And, and she for everything she's been through, she's still a catch of a person. And so I appreciate you for doing this. And, we'll keep in touch. I mean, we'll probably talk very shortly, but I mean, I'm just saying in general, just, keep your head up, keep going, doing what you're doing. And down the road, maybe we can do an update episode, like a year or so down the road when you're still sober, and let everybody know how well you're doing. And, so yeah, please keep doing good and stay on the same path. And like I said, I have a lot of love for you. I'm glad you're doing so well. And just please take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. That was a long journey. That's going to take a lot out of me. I heard a lot of her story. I didn't know all of it. And, there's a lot to unpack. And, but I'm grateful to know her. And, I'm sorry. I'm just, I'm not saying, I don't want to say I'm in shock because, I've heard a lot of crazy shit. I've seen a lot of crazy shit. I've been through a lot of crazy shit. But it's just one of those where it hits you, and then you kind of now dealing with it. And I'm just so happy that she's doing much better. Maybe to some people that's not doing better because she's still susceptible to everything that she just went through. But I believe in her. I believe she's going to do better. Like I said, I had such a real, raw conversation with her the other night, and I knew I was meant to meet her, and I knew that, we were going to be friends for a long time. So, cheers to her and her sobriety and everything that's going to come down her path next. I hope it's nothing but good things. And if I can make anything easier on her, I will definitely try. I don't just say that just because it sounds good on the mic, because people say a lot of corny shit that they don't mean. And I try to be there for everybody I've interviewed and just people I haven't that I genuinely love. And it's taxing, but I will try to take as much pain and sorrow off of people as much as I can, and I'll try to bear it as much as I can. So I don't know, guys. Like I said, I hope you're all doing well out there. Please look out for each other, and if you hear some of these sad, horrible stories that people are going through, and try to help. Be the one person that can save another. So see you guys later.